the very first thing we're going to do, since we can't see everybody, is I'm going to do roll call. So I'm going to call out your name, and if you just want to say yay. So is Leroy on the line?
Damn.
Leroy? Okay, did anyone hear from Leroy?
I'm here.
Okay, there he is.
Yes. How's y'all doing?
Good. We're just having some challenges, but we'll get through it. Okay.
Yeah, I've been listening in.
Okay, good. Okay.
Oh,
Eric-
you're just one of those ones that just operates in the background.
Yeah,
He's Galaxy Tab A and B.
Thank you. That's who I is.
Or A8, I guess.
There's a name for that, I think.
Eric, are you on the phone? Eric?
I texted Mary Jones all the information, so she said, got it. So
Okay. I don't know if Eric's muted. And we know Frank's on the line. Is Ike on the line?
Eric, the phone is a little bit away from our speaker here. So the people that are on the conference call will have to relay. I'm going to try to set it up with my phone. So hold on. Eric, the phone is a little bit away from our speaker here. So
I see Bill and I see Steve and I see Bob's on the line. So let me just go through this again. So I think I'm just trying to get confirmation from Eric.
right. So they're on the phone. It's Commissioner Britton, Commissioner White, and Commissioner Broccolo.
Okay. All right. So we just haven't heard from Commissioner Jones. Okay.
Yeah, we've tried both of our numbers.
Okay. All right. And I know this is a little unorthodox and I have a little flag I can look at, but let's pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and
justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the minutes from April 13th, 2020?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or changes?
Deb, just can we go ahead and just do practice and go ahead and do a roll on this to make sure? Because last time we sounded like we might have missed somebody. I think we ought to do a roll call of just to make sure everybody's hearing.
Okay, I can go through it again. So I see Leroy's on now.
Yeah, just call each name and then get a yay or nay, and then we'll be sure we don't miss anybody.
Okay, so Leroy.
Yes.
Okay, Eric.
Eric, are you there?
I'm here.
He's here.
Frank.
Commissioner,
very difficult to hear you. It's echoey.
okay, Commissioner Broccolo is here. We're working on an echo on our end.
Yeah, I heard that a little bit too. Is Ike on the phone?
Commissioner White?
Yeah.
Commissioner White's here.
Yeah.
Okay, Bill,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
Bob,
Here.
I'm obviously here. So from a commissioner standpoint, I see Chief Walls. I know Donald's on the line, obviously Ryan, I see Suchitra in the background. Is Chief Stanley there?
Yep, we have Chief Anderson, Valerie, Suchitra, Chief Gilcrease, and Chief Stanley.
All righty, so that's roll call. I don't think
Amanda's here as well.
Who was that?
Yes, little girl.
Who was the little girl?
I
My
think,
goddaughter.
I think it's the profile picture you use that's instead
Yeah,
of
it's my profile pic.
That's great.
Uh, That's cute, Amanda.
Thank you.
Anyone on the line or on the Zoom meeting from the public? I mean, if we have any public comments, but I don't think anybody's on.
Well, if they are, they're just hovering in the background. What are they?
Okay, well.
As I'm sure there are.
Yeah, do you want to move to the chief's report?
Okay. As you know, we've still been in lockdown. And I have a meeting tomorrow with my chiefs and administration to go over next steps. I don't believe that it will be appropriate for us to open up the fire stations and headquarters to the public yet at this time. There are a couple of reasons why, and I'll discuss them with my chiefs in the morning. However, because things are opening up does not mean we're out of the woods on this issue. And you can remember that our firefighters are still responding to medical calls where potentially we have positive COVID patients. Our fire stations are open, and when we have a lot of visitors, particularly to Seabrook and Kiowa and even Wamala and Johns Island, we have people stop in the stations with their children, etc. And I'm not sure how efficient we would be at being able to contract trace these people if one of my firefighters were to test positive. I don't know how we would be able to reach out to them because many times the children come in, we don't get their names when they're parents. And so I find it a little bit difficult with that in mind to open up. However, we're still operating, and responding to emergency calls as usual. We looked at, and we will begin to, the second squad, put them on a noon to 8 schedule as long as we can get firefighters to work that. And that second squad is on overtime, as you are aware. The reason for that time frame is that's the highest call volume that we have during the week, Monday through Friday, from noon until 8 p.m. Substantially, it was really interesting to find that we have a very low call volume on the weekends. 7 firefighters took the engineer's exam in March. All of them passed, and 2 will be promoted as of May 16th. Obviously, we can't do their badge pinning at this time, but we will. If you can remember, we had 5 recruits that were going to go to South Carolina Fire Academy. Because they shut the class down, we offered them the opportunity to train in-house with us. 4 accepted and 1 declined. Those 4 have passed their firefighter 1 exam, the written and the physical, as well as hazmat, and they will move on to training for firefighter 2. So I'm pretty happy with that. For the first time, with those 4 recruits, we will be within 2 people of a complete staffing for St. John's Fire District. That's pretty amazing, but considering the opportunity, the place that we're in right now, it also could be a handicap for us. However, the goal is to make sure that we hopefully retain all of our firefighters through this pandemic. But everything is so up in the air. I'm not sure anybody really knows what to expect as far as emergency services, because we're impacted by the decline of business and people not working. Ladder 704 went into the shop, and unfortunately the news is we have to replace the steering gearboxes on both sides. The estimated price tag on that is $7,036. We have a reserve pumper in the shop with a transmission issue, and the estimate on that is about $1,700. We had a recall on all the Tahoes, and so they have been cycling in. That's an issue with the brakes, and they started being cycled into the garage today under warranty for, or under recall. I think for now that is all we have. When we get to old business, I think that one of our commissioners would like us to do a recall of his vote to make sure it's recorded for the record. And I think that we should do that when we get to old business on a motion that was made last month. Other than that, Brian, do you have any numbers to report?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. We do have, we're basically working on emergency, if you need smoke alarms, emergency. We did calculate, we did install 12 new smoke alarms in the past month, but we also checked on about 20 additional alarms in the last month as well. Currently, right now, with some of the new governor's orders too, we're working with our local restaurants and retailers on occupancy loads and reoccupying and things like that. So especially today, some of these restaurants want to get back open. So we're helping businesses with that as well.
Okay, thank you. Chief Gilcrease, do you have our stats?
Stand by.
Gotcha. While we're waiting for Chief Gilcrease, I just wanted to,
I'm here.
okay, go ahead.
No, I'm
Chief
just kidding.
Gilcrease.
Go ahead, Chief.
No, go ahead. I can wait.
Just quick stats for April 2020. St. John's answered 291 calls for service. Johns Island accounted for 160. Waterloo had 43. Kiowa had 54 and Seabrook had 34.
Okay.
That's it.
Anybody have any questions on those stats? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chief Gilcrease. I did want to give an update on the training prop. It looks like we're finally moving ahead with that, with the contract with Choate and with the manufacturer that is building the prop. We've been in contact with them. And so hopefully, as I get a chance to go over the contract that was sent today, this afternoon, I'm not sure, Billy, if you had opportunity to look at that. We'll take a look at that, sign it, and get that hopefully in the works finally and on the road. I did also want to say that I spoke with Councilwoman Johnson right prior to this meeting. She got back to me from an earlier call, and she is not yet sure, the county is not yet sure whether their next finance meeting will be virtual or in person. However, the binders of the financial worksheets that they were supposed to have been given only arrived this past Friday to them, so they haven't had the opportunity to look at anything. For now, that's all I have. You there, Deb? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Suchitra, would you please do the financial report?
Good evening, everyone. The April financial report, the remaining operating budget for the next couple of months is 16%. Our overall budget remaining actual is 26%, not including the payroll accruals. Bank balances, our operating bank balance as of 4/30 is 8.4 million. The LGIP account balance is at 11,567. Revenues, the April collections were about $5,486. The wire transfer from Charleston County received for the month of March, which you get it in April, is 186,000. Year-to-date non-standard overtime is at 249,828. Capital projects, the only balance we have now is the 2018 balance, which is at 8 million.
No, I don't have any questions. We did go over your dashboard in the finance committee meeting. Were you going to go over that with us tonight again with all of the commission, or?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Anything else?
Are you going to go over that?
Oh, you want me to do it right now? Because I thought Deborah wanted to do it in the executive session. Okay.
We can do it in the executive session. Yeah, because we have a couple other finance questions we want to discuss in executive session anyway.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Donald, attorney's update?
Nothing to update other than what might come up in executive session.
Okay, thank you. Old business. So on the old business, let me pull up the minutes from the April meeting. And are there any, I know Commissioner Broccolo would like to, we didn't hear his vote, and I'm going to go through all the motions, but if anyone else feels that their vote wasn't documented, please let me know. The first motion that we had was the 2020 to 2021 budget for $14,452,393. Frank, would you please register your vote?
Yes, I approve that one.
I can't hear him. Did he say it approved?
Can you hear me
Yeah, he said approved there.
You said approve.
Okay. The second motion was to continue with the auditors, Green, Finley, and Horton.
now? Yes, I approve that.
Okay. The third motion was to, there was a market-based adjustment of 5% to the chief's salary.
No on that one.
Okay. Are there any other commissioners that felt we did not hear their vote on the April meeting?
No.
Okay. Is there any other old business that anyone would like to discuss?
Yes, Deborah, you might want to make a motion on allowing the virtual meetings to continue for 30 days so that we are covered. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did talk to Donald about that, and I was going to do it when we come out of executive session, but I can do it now.
Now it's fine.
Okay, so let me just give a little bit of background. Our next commission meeting is June 8th. And I'd like to make a motion to continue with the virtual meeting for the next 30 days, which would include any committee meetings and also the commission meeting up to June 8th. So do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Everyone, do I have an aye?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
3 ayes.
And the eyes will happen.
Okay, and I didn't hear any opposition. So we're basically going to continue with virtual meetings or conference calls, and we'll identify, what vehicle we're using for the committee meetings and the next commission meeting. Okay. Any new?
Donald,
Yes.
do we need to amend the bylaws to incorporate that into?
Yeah, well, Deborah talked to me about that, and that may come up in executive session. I've already drafted something to cover that. We have to make sure we notify everybody in writing, like I think it's 10 or 14 days prior to the next meeting, and we'll get that done and formalize it in the bylaws. Basically, what it'll just say is when there are emergency circumstances, that the chairman, in his or her discretion, can have a video conference or telephonic conference when they determine it's absolutely necessary. So that could be flooding, hurricane, virus, power outages, whatever emergency there might be. There probably ought to be something in the bylaws to allow us to do it.
Yes, and I was going to get into a little more detail during the executive session because we do have a little bit in the bylaws about compensation when we call into meetings. But yes, I did talk to Donald about that and another bylaw change. So we'll discuss it in the executive session. As Donald said, we'll make sure that everyone gets a written copy no less than 10 days before the June 8th commission meeting. And then that will be up for the bylaw changes will be up for vote. We will discuss it in more detail in the executive session. Any other new business? Okay, committee reports. Bill, for the building.
Yes, fairly short one this evening. We did receive the appraisal for the Maybank property, and we can talk more about that in executive session. Station 4, the test piles, 4 test piles were completed, And the remaining piles have been cast in the manufacturing facility and are being cured right now. And so those will be delivered and pile driving will start sometime next week if all goes well. There were 2 trees removed from the site this past week and 2 other trees trimmed that were in the path of the building. The trees that were removed and the trimmings were in the path of the new building, so they had to be removed, and the ARB was very cooperative about that. And Choke got it done quickly. So that's all I have.
Good job.
Any questions for Bill? Okay, Finance Committee, we met on Thursday, May 7th. We went over the financial report, which we just reviewed that again with Suchitra. Suchitra's working on a bond balance. We saw the 8 million, but what Suchitra's working on is more of a detailed breakdown of that $8 million. For example, Station 4 is about 6.8 million. So we're trying to figure out what we've earmarked for the remaining balance of that 8 million. And we will be going over that in detail in the next strategic planning committee meeting. And we will be in the executive session discussing a date for both the strategic planning meeting and also the HR meeting. So we'll get into that later. We're still working on a final payment for How and How. There are some outstanding issues. Bill is keeping the chief and the building committee updated on that. We need to continue to resolve these outstanding determine a final payment. We went over the Wells Fargo check fraud recovery. Wells Fargo did reimburse the fire district for all of the monies. So we're good on that. The chief can get into a little bit more detail in the executive session of we've set up more controls so that that won't happen again. We did briefly talk about the 2021 budget, and with the economic impacts that we're experiencing because of the coronavirus, we're concerned about, what adjustments we may have to make to the 2021 budget. The chief had given some examples of some items, and then I was also pointing out we do have some capital expenditures within the operating budget that we may have to postpone if we're directed by the county to make reductions. So until the Charleston County Council has a chance to review all of the budgets being submitted and we get some type of direction from them, we're kind of in a holding pattern, but we do realize that we could make some reductions if that, comes to be. And the chief also talked about the TAN loans. We know we may have to take 2 because of cash flow. Sometimes, we don't get all the property taxes in a timely manner because the bills go out, the end of the year. With the economic issues, we are assuming that the property taxes that we receive will probably be slowly coming in, and the county may even have to take additional steps to help property owners with more detailed payment plans. So again, stay tuned on that. We're prepared, to address it, but we just have to wait and see what happens. And we can talk more in executive session, but the other thing we talked about a little bit is in our disaster preparedness in the 2021 budget, we do have $25,000 budgeted for possible emergency purchases, but we'll be discussing a little bit more details on the equipment rentals that we've discussed in the past. So that's really a kind of in a nutshell of what we talked about in the Finance Committee meeting. So human resource, Steve, I know we didn't have a meeting yet. So I guess you're just going to, in executive session, talk about the date.
Yes, correct.
And Eric and I discussed the strategic planning. And again, during executive session, we're going to discuss scheduling that. Eric has been gathering various information on maintenance needs, a maintenance building needs. So we'll talk about that in the strategic planning committee meeting, but we can discuss it a little bit in executive session. So that's it for the committee reports. Is there any public or firefighter comments?
I'm not sure if anybody's on the line, but this is Chief Walls again. But I did want to convey that they do have concerns, obviously, the firefighters. And, you know, some of their peers had initially received hazard pay. I think that has since stopped because it was not sustainable in a long duration event. But the Finance Committee did speak about if there was something available down the line, would we be giving it to our firefighters? And that's absolutely yes. They also were concerned that going into the new budget, would it affect the STEP program? And currently, you know, because we work so hard to get to where we are and to give them opportunities for success, it's very difficult to say right now how any of this will impact us. And so I just wanted to convey their concerns, and they're justifiable moving forward. Again, we have not gotten or received any guidance from Charleston County at this time of how we may personally be impacted at St. John's, but we anticipate that we're going to have to rein things in, and we have some things that we put in place and discussed to do that. So I just wanted to reiterate that and their concerns, because it's a kind of unconventional way that they can't come and speak for themselves, and I'm not sure if they're online. So in conclusion.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go down through the roll call again and see if any commissioners have any comments. So Leroy, do you have any comments?
Yes, ma'am. They're having COVID-19 testing tomorrow at the Johns Island Library from 9 till 4.
And Wadmalaw the following day, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So I encourage everyone to please get tested.
The testing on Wadmalaw is at Miss Jones' church, and the time frame is the same.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Eric, do you have any comments?
No.
Okay, Frank, do you have any comments?
First, I just wanted to thank Chief Walls for deploying Squad 702 during this pandemic. Thank you for getting that squad up and minimizing the risks to firefighters. So thank you very much for doing that. Much appreciated. Also want to just welcome the new firefighters and congratulations on the completion of Firefighting 1. And I just want to welcome Commissioner White to the commission board and look forward to working with you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Frank. Ike, do you have any comments?
Yes, I just would like to say I'm happy to be aboard along with the commission, and I'm looking forward to work with Jones all surrounding area. And I'd like to give Chief to let her know that I appreciate the way she's looking out for the firefighters and all on-shift personnel. I appreciate that, and that's it.
Thank you. Bill?
Just welcome to the new engineers on board and the new firefighters that have completed their training.
Okay, Steve?
Ditto everything Frank said, and please stay safe out there.
Bob?
I'd like to welcome Ike on board. We'd like to have new faces. Thank all the firefighters for what they've done over the past month. And to just reiterate what Steve just said, stay safe.
Okay, and I would just like to welcome Mike to the commission. I look forward to actually meeting with you eventually, face to face. Hopefully that'll happen in the near future for all of us. Just want to let you all know that when I do roll call, whether it's a committee meeting or a commission meeting, I do turn in the lists to the fire district. So we are keeping track of attendance within all of our meetings. I know that they're not on the line, but I'm thrilled to hear that we have engineers filling our 2 positions, and we have 4 new firefighters. So that's very encouraging news. And that's it. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to go to executive session to discuss personnel, labor, and contractual issues. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now just a reminder, it's in the email. You're going to switch to a telephone conference call for the executive session. So it's 6:39. So would you please dial in no later than 6:45? We'll give everybody a break for a couple minutes.